Brave warriors who wear the wings. They come through here for flight training, and so this is a dark day for a very great place. I think it not only strikes at the heart of the community here in Northwest Florida, but throughout the Navy, nationwide, and really around the world, because of so many people that have been involved in this base in one way or another. And I know that the president is actively monitoring in the White House, and the thoughts and prayers go out to everybody. We at the state of Florida have already dispatched support. Our Department of Emergency Management has sent a mental health coordinator to talk to any of the witnesses, any of the victims, the families, and offer whatever support they can get. Department of Children and Families has sent a mobile response team to the hospital. We have fatalities, but we also have people who are wounded. Some, like the Escambia deputies, look like they're going to be okay. Some are still in surgery, so we're praying hard for those folks. I think there's obviously going to be a lot of questions about, this individual being a foreign national, being a part of the Saudi Air Force, and then to be here training on our soil to do this. And the FBI is working with DOD, they're working with FDLE, they're working with the Escambia County sheriffs to answer those questions. One of the things that I talked to the president about is, given that this was a foreign national in the employ of a foreign service, and there'll be time to do this, but obviously the government of Saudi Arabia needs to make things better for these victims, and I think that they are going to owe a debt here, given that this is one of their individuals. But what I can tell you is the response that we saw from the deputies at Escambia County, some of the active duty personnel responding to the scene. And you'll hear more in depth of some of these stories as the days go on. But I can tell you, lives were saved because of the response of people both in uniform with the Navy, in uniform with Escambia County. And so in one of the darkest days, I think, of the base's history, you still saw some of that bravery and grit come out. And even people who had been wounded themselves, thinking about others and what could be done to save others. And so those stories are inspiring and keeps us going on a otherwise very bad day.